Thank you. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jeff McClure. I am the Vice Chair of the Board of Supervisors for Pinal County. And I have the privilege of working with all these fine people over here. They're a wonderful group of people to work with, and I'll introduce them. I've got Tricia Kusier right here, who is my district administrator. So when you call our office, she's the one you're going to get. Then you got Leo Liu, county manager. And these are, by the way, not in order of importance, but, you know. So, just saying. So Leo Liu, county manager. We've got James Smith, economic development. We've got Brent Billingsley from planning and development or community development, right? Then we got Joe Ortiz, which is, what are you, your assistant director, one of those guys, public works anyway. He'll talk. Doug Wolf, county assessor, your local star, right? Okay, then we've got Geraldine Roll, she's elections director. We've got Kent Volkmer, county attorney. You can, clap loud, big. We've got Mary Ellen Shepard, deputy county manager, and Himanshu Patel, deputy county manager. So we brought everybody that you can't really get to because they're all pretty busy people. So this is great that they're all here willing to come. We've got some various staff in the audience. You can all stand up and wave your hands. Yay. All right. So we'll start this part. Like I say, I have the pleasure of working with these people every day. They're all great professional folks, and they really have the county's interest at heart, which is great because we have a lot of things going on, a lot of wheels in motion, and it's really fun to go to work every day and to be able to work with them. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce County Manager Leo Liu and let him get going. Oh, by the way, that's a nice picture up here.
No. Yeah, that's me in 15 years. Oh, no, there I am. Well, I guess I got to run for office because that's the only way to get an applause when you get introduced around here. Well, they're great. They're fantastic to work with. Like Vice Chairman McClure had said, we love working together. We got a great team. We're very collaborative, and we come together to work for your good. So thank you for being here. How many of you have been to one of these before, just by show of hands? Great, a lot of you. How many are new then? Okay, well, still a good number. Good. About half and half. So thanks for spending time with us to hear about what's going on and what we're doing for you and for us to be able to gather some of your questions and your feedback as we go. I'm going to do more of a high level, talk about the mission, the vision, the values of the organization, as well as the strategic priorities that this new board has set. I'll comment on a couple of them that we may not have staff to talk to, but then staff here is going to go ahead and talk about the details of what they've been working on and what progress we've made over the time. Okay. Yep, once we're all done. So we'll hold questions, take notes of what your questions are, and once we're done through the line, then we'll take open mic for questions. So our vision, Pinal County, is to lead through innovation, flexibility, collaboration, which result in vibrant, safe, and well-developed communities. Our mission, why we exist, is to protect and enhance citizens' quality of life by driving vitality and providing efficient, effective, needed services through talented and motivated employees. And then these values are something that we created together as an organization. We went through a culture development process, and we came up with the acronym ACT. Accountability, taking responsibility for our actions, commitment, all in, going above and beyond expectations, and teamwork, a coordinated group. That's fantastic, thank you. Working toward a common goal and beyond our own personal ambitions. Thank you. So here are the 5. We took a strategic retreat with the board and all our department directors and constitutional offices, and we came up with these 5 priorities for us as an organization. And just so you know, each constitutional office will usually have their own strategic plan and their own goals. So these are those of the board for the organization as a whole. So first we have organizational excellence and effectiveness. We create a workplace culture cultivating motivated and successful employees who are proud to serve the citizens of Pinal County. We promote and develop secure technology solutions that enhance connectivity, create operational efficiencies, and provide easier access to county services and information. Mary Ellen's going to talk about that.
Like I said, it wasn't in order of importance. It's just
There we go, left click. Thanks. Infrastructure and asset management. We provide safe, efficient, sustainable, cost-effective, and well-maintained infrastructure and transportation systems. And we build, maintain, and manage capital assets to preserve long-term investment and ensure reliable services. And this is one I just want to take a moment to address because a lot of people aren't aware of how transportation infrastructure is funded in Arizona. When we talk about property taxes here, which we will in a while, it's the general fund, what we call the general fund, which is for primarily the operations of the county, law enforcement, court system, assessor's office, recorder's office, me. But roads are funded in a different way. They're funded by what we call a special revenue fund. If you've ever heard the term HERF, the Highway User Revenue Fund, that's your gas taxes that you pay. That's dedicated for transportation. And then there's something called we call a road excise tax, which is really a privilege or sales tax, and it's a 1/2 cent. And it's countywide. It gets divided by population to all the cities and then to the unincorporated. That's the other dedicated revenue source. And it's something that you all vote on. It's a 20-year term. And if you're familiar with the Maricopa County system, I think theirs is a little different. They call it Prop 400. Than Prop 400 extension, and was what they're working on right now. So for the county, it expires in 2026. And if I don't know how much you've heard, but for that HERF tax that I was just talking about, that has not been inflation adjusted or has not been changed since 1991. So we're still functioning on that same amount of revenue, and as you can imagine, what the county's population growth has been since 91. And the road needs, to get people from community to community, to the stores, to their workplaces, to entertainment. And so a lot of that money has been focused on maintaining what we have. There's some that we've been using for projects, but a lot of it's been for maintenance. And so that expires in 26, and it's something that we want to work with you and communities to understand and develop a plan for maintenance and for new roads that is something that you want and something that you'd be willing as communities to pay for. So we look to do that in the near future. The other one, as you might remember, was most recently Prop 469. That was on the ballot. That was originally Prop 417. We call it the Pinal Regional Transportation Authority, or PRTA. The original vote in 17 was Prop 416 and 17. Prop 416 was the actual plan, and it was a regional plan for regional connectivity, roadways, state routes. And that plan was voted affirmatively back then, and so was the tax, which was Prop 417. It was a 1/2 cent tax. The court subsequently ruled that tax illegal, out of compliance, essentially because it had a variable rate included in it, which was an exemption for over $10,000 on purchases like automobiles. And so Prop 469, which was the most recent proposition on the bill that got denied, was that same tax to fund that plan without the exemption over $10,000. That now was not affirmed, was not voted by you all and by the majority of the public. And so now the original plan that was developed and approved has expired because it only had a certain life, 5 years of life. If it didn't get a tax to fund the plan, then the plan expires. So here we are today, and between the maintenance tax and what we can call a new road tax for the PRTA, we don't have that yet. So that's why we want to make a movement that shows you, and is really a grassroots in a sense of what do communities want from both of these, and what are they willing to pay for the development and for the ease of movement throughout our county. So I just wanted to put that on your radar and let you know that we'll hopefully be having many work sessions with the board and with the communities to help develop a plan that everybody actually wants. And not to mention what that is, there's a International Economic Development Conference pretty close here at Star Pass Resort. that me and James are attending, and the future of roads and infrastructure that's going to be needed in the roads is going to change with autonomous freight and drones and autonomous unmanned vehicles that are going to be taking things, both humans and packages and goods throughout. Really is the way of the future. And so along that line, our other priority is balanced and flexible growth, which has a lot to do with planning and community development. So we want to develop and implement strategies to effectively address growth, sustainability, and livability in our dynamic county. And then we want to enhance economic vitality. We want to create a resilient and diversified economic base that enhances the vitality of our communities, aims to attract and develop a skilled and talented workforce, and we collaborate with state, cities and towns, regional organizations, and the private sector to strengthen our economy. And that's really going to come into play as a branch into the next section related to taxes, because we do have, in the county as a whole, we have a relatively lower value of property per person and a relatively lower income per person throughout our county. We have a lot of residential, and we want to balance that and have a lot of industry and employment, which adds to that tax base and creates a higher market value of land per person, and then of course raises the incomes as well. And James will talk about that. And then our fifth strategy, financial strength and stewardship. We want to maintain a long-term positive financial position by balancing revenues and expenditures for operations, debt management, and capital investments. And we want to steward your taxpayer funds efficiently and effectively to minimize the burden on taxpayers and create a competitive community and business environment. I've been here with the county since 2009, and back then, on your primary property tax, the county was taxing the maximum allowable by state law. So state statutes that govern primary property tax allow you to raise on the existing properties 2% a year, and then you add the new construction. So in a sense, that's like they're saying, hey, you can keep up with inflation if you'd like. And back then we were taxing the max. We were also taxing 1.16% of the aggregate personal income that you have, which was second highest in the state. So there's 15 counties. At that point, we were second highest out of the 15. And our tax rate was pretty high. It was $3.99. So the previous board and other previous strategic plans said we really got to get more competitive, both for our residents and for businesses, as that's a big factor in them making a determination where they want to be. So since then, the previous boards and this board, the previous boards reduced the tax to $3.75 from $3.99, and then this board has reduced it just in 2 years to $3.56. And that has taken us to be, remember we were second highest as a percent of personal income. That's taken us down to 10th. So now we're 10th out of 15, and we've reduced that to 0.78% of personal income. So they've made quite a lot of headway. They do that while still keeping a really strong credit rating and managing the county well. Okay, that's the other thing that'll get an applause. I'll remember that. Thank you. So now we'll hand it over to James.
Thanks, Leo. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. I get to talk about some exciting things happening here in the county. We really are seeing a transformation of the county, as Leo kind of talked about, from mainly being some bedroom communities to really seeing some industry and some new businesses coming to the county. So this is just a slide that we use as a little bit of a snapshot. You've probably heard the news about a lot of these companies that have announced in recent years. LG was kind of early last year, and Procter & Gamble later last year. We're really seeing kind of growth in three major sectors. one being the semiconductor supply chain. So you may not recognize CCP. They're actually a supplier to Intel and to the new TSMC semiconductor manufacturing plant that's being built in North Phoenix, and that's a $40 billion project. So we're really seeing a lot of growth around semiconductor supply chain for those two major projects that are happening kind of more in the valley. And then we're also seeing, obviously, growth in electric vehicles. Lucid, if you haven't heard, was the Motor Trend Car of the Year in 2022, manufactured right in Casa Grande in Pinal County. And then Nikola also manufacturing trucks in Coolidge. So we're seeing that electric vehicle manufacturing, but also in the battery space. So LG will be manufacturing batteries for the electric vehicle industry. The electric vehicle industry also requires a lot of copper, so we're seeing a lot of activity in copper mining. Some of it kind of being a rebirth of some older mines, one in particular in Casa Grande that's being reactivated. And then the Coolidge mine is just about to hire 150 new people when they get their environmental clearance. So again, that's really driving a lot of activity. And we're actually seeing some activity around recycling of these batteries once they've hit the end of their useful life. So there's a company in Eloy that's a $25 million project and 110 jobs. So from start to finish throughout the electric vehicle industry and lifespan, we're seeing activity. And then the last kind of area is building materials. Obviously, Arizona's had a huge amount of growth in recent years. Kohler is under construction in Casa Grande. You see that one on here. National Gypsum, which we'll talk about in just a second. And then Owens Corning reopened a factory in Eloy that had been shuttered for almost 20 years. So a lot of activity around building materials. So just a couple things I want to point out on this at a glance. One, the county does lag our competing areas in both college-educated folks and those with some college. So you'll see we're at about 20% of our residents that have that have graduated college, have a degree. That's really closer to a third in the valley and some of our competing areas. And then also those with some college, we lag quite a bit. That's as high as 60% in the valley in some communities. So that is really one of our strategic goals. We want to make it easier for folks to get college education. We would love to see the presence of a 4-year university in the county. So that's one of our strategic goals, and I'll talk about some of the others. Here's just a map that shows where these companies have located. You'll see strategically the I-10, I-8, and the Union Pacific Rail is a huge driver. It's a strategic advantage for our area to have those kinds of transportation routes, because you can serve California, Mexico, and Texas, which are 3 of the world's 10 largest economies. So we sit right at the crossroads, as well as being able to serve the major metros of Phoenix and Tucson. So that kind of gives you an idea of where the growth is happening. The other thing I'll point out about this slide, you see that yellow box. Those are really those semiconductor supply chain companies. So those all told represent $850 million of investment in over 550 jobs that have been announced. In electric vehicles, at full build-out of Nikola and Lucid, that will be $2.7 billion in investment and 8,000 jobs. And then if you add the LG factory, that's another $2.8 billion of investment and 2,800 jobs in that sector. So huge growth in these areas. So this just kind of breaks down what I'm talking about here, the investment that's been announced and the number of jobs. And really, we are looking for those manufacturing jobs for a couple reasons. One, they tend to pay well. There are jobs that you can usually support a family on, reasonably. But also, they create the multiplier effect, which creates the supplier jobs, which we've talked about a little bit with semiconductors. but also they create jobs in restaurants and hospitality and entertainment. So we're really kind of looking to create those manufacturing jobs that bring along other industries as well. One of our strategic goals for the county is really to try to provide jobs for those who want to work in the county and earn a good wage. And so right now, one of the issues that we have is 78% of our workforce every day leaves the county to go to work. And it's even more pronounced in areas like Santan Valley and Maricopa, where it's 90% of their folks that are leaving the county. So that's another reason we're trying to create these jobs so that people's quality of life is better. They're closer to home. They can be more involved with the school, the Little League, all of those kinds of things. But also it puts a huge burden on our transportation system if these people have to commute a long way out of our county. And then we have to build improved roads. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Brent. I do want to point out I have two of my staff members here, so afterwards, if you would like to speak with them, Courtney Gully and Shannon McHenry are down here. And one other thing I wanted to point out, for those of you that are interested in golf, March 26th to the 28th, we will be hosting an LPGA event in Pinal County. We are a sponsor of that in the Gold Canyon area at the Superstition Golf Course. So if you're interested in that, look that up and try to make it out.
Good morning. My name is Brent. I'm with Community Development. Who out here knows what the Community Development Department does? I see a couple. So we're the folks that process development applications essentially from cradle to grave, from zoning a project to doing planning for individual projects, creating the lots through the platting process. And then we go as far as doing the inspections on individual projects and code enforcement at the back end. We have a lot of coordination with Public Works. We work as a team, and we're actually located in the same building if you'd like to come and visit us and say hello. There's a couple of folks I want to introduce that are in the front row, Gilbert and Todd. These gentlemen are part of the department and their team members. Gilbert and I and Todd, after the meeting, we'll meet up here at the front and answer any questions you might have about community development if you would like to after we get done. Whoops. Left click. Well. There we go. As I said before, our department handles development, and you guys are familiar with what that looks like and how that has occurred in this area. It brings a great deal of pride to me to be here today and to be able to look at SaddleBrooke, such a beautiful community and homes and well-designed. I did plan review for SaddleBrooke when I was right out of college 25 years ago. So a lot of this subdivision I did infrastructure plan review for. So it's neat for me to come back. Pinal County is one of the fastest growing counties in the United States. For 4 months this year, we were the fastest growing government entity in all of Arizona. That's more than Maricopa County and the city of Phoenix. Right now, at the close out of the last fiscal year, we ended up third in the state of Arizona in terms of growth. What does that mean? We processed about 3,000 single-family permits last year. That's a little over 10,000 people that have been added to Pinal County since this time last year. 79 final plats. That's the second most I could find on record. Final plats are the actual designs of subdivisions that create the lots so that folks can buy houses and live on their individual lots with their homes. So as you can imagine, 80 of those countywide that's 80 new subdivisions in Pinal County. 40 tentative plats, which will go into final plats next year. And the number that I like to point out to James here is we did 135 site plans last year. That's an all-time record for Pinal County. When we talk about site plans, those are commercial and industrial businesses. So that's a key metric to use for economic development. Jobs are being created, commerce is being created in this county, and that's a very positive thing. And that's coupled with 52 zoning cases, so to rezone property. So a very busy year from our perspective. Oh, that's a great point. Thank you, Vice Chair. These permits are only in unincorporated Pinal County. This doesn't include any of the cities. So as you can imagine, that number is much higher if the cities are brought in. I have some statistics here that I can share with you. Folks in the media and nationally and statewide have talked a lot about a slowdown in the economy due to interest rates being higher. And we have certainly seen that, but not to the degree that you would take away from the media representation. Pinal County is down 11% in terms of our growth over the last 12 months from what was projected. That sounds like quite a bit, but it's really a minor portion. I can't see up here. It's really a minor portion compared to the impact on other areas. City of Apache Junction is down 71%. Casa Grande's down 48%. Coolidge is down 38%. Florence is down 76%. Maricopa County itself is up. It's one of the only entities that's up. City of Maricopa is down 36%, and Queen Creek, fast-growing Queen Creek, is down 33%. So although we're seeing a slowdown in areas, we're not seeing that much of a slowdown in Pinal County. We're continuing to grow, and we continue to be told that we have a shortage. Due to all those jobs that James and the board are creating, we have a shortage of housing in Pinal County, and that's something to really stay focused on. Oh boy, I can't find the arrow on the computer now. There we go. What are some things that we're going to focus on in our department over the next year that could be beneficial to the folks in this room? I have a list up here above. We went to online permitting during COVID, so almost all of our permits are available online. Not all of them are, because there are complications on certain types of permits in terms of making it available for folks to pay to actually get those permits online. We're hoping to get everything online this year. One of the challenges that we've seen is a lot of folks come to the office and want to submit for their permits in person, and either don't have a computer at home or don't have the sophistication necessary to upload their plans and submit permits. So one of the things that we're working on right now is setting up a kiosk in our main office to help people facilitate electronic submittals. So that's kind of exciting, but the big project for this year to make sure you keep an eye on is Pinal County's updating its zoning code. Zoning determines the types of uses, where they can go, and what they can be adjacent to. It's a very key foundational document for the county. County's been working on it for quite some time. I would tell you in the next few months, we're going to be submitting what we call our legislative draft of the zoning code update to the public. It'll be advertised in the paper, there'll be public meetings, and a 60-day comment period will be held per state statute. So hopefully you get a chance to review that document, provide comments. It's a key foundational document for the future of Pinal County. The two other things I wanted to mention that have been some questions from the SaddleBrooke area that have been asked of our staff recently. First has to do with the Mammoth office. Is everybody familiar that we have a Mammoth office for Pinal County? That office was closed for quite some time. It has been reopened, and it's now opened on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Folks can process permitting, payments, burn permits, tax information and payments, dump vouchers, any requests for community development, courts, animal control, and the sheriff's office. We have staff there that are willing and able to assist, so we hope you take advantage of that. The other item that I wanted to bring up is there's been some questions that came to our office starting in December regarding incorrect zip codes in the SaddleBrooke area. It's something that we've been working on for about a month in conjunction with the assessor's office, the GIS department at Pinal County, and the U.S. Postal Service. As of last week, 2 weeks ago, we got all the information, the tabular data from the U.S. Post Office. We got that to GIS, and I think that the updates have taken place. I'm looking at, I think the updates have been made. Please make us aware if you have issues with zip codes and addresses. It's a very complicated process that touch many hands, and oftentimes we wouldn't know unless you guys tell us. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Joe for all the tough stuff.
Thank you, Brent. I don't know about tough stuff, but we'll let you guys decide if it's tough or not. So my name is Joe Ortiz. I'm with Pinal County Public Works. I'm the deputy director. Andy Smith does apologize. He wanted to be here today, the director. He's up with the legislature trying to squeeze some dollars out of them for our roads. So before I get started, let me get off that ugly picture. Oh, mouse. So, just kind of want to piggyback off of Leo's comments on our HERF and half-cent excise tax. Yeah, the Highway User Revenue Fund, as he mentioned, is a gas tax that hasn't been touched since 1991. And with the changing dynamics of our vehicles going from gas to electric, it is impacting those dollars that we receive. HERF, Highway User Revenue Fund, is mainly used for operational equipment, manpower, and some new road connections. Our half-cent sales tax or excise tax, which expires here in a couple of years, like Leo mentioned, is more for our maintenance of existing roads. To give you some ideas on perspective of what those dollars are, so pavement preservation, a simple chip seal or micro slurry is costing us about $55,000 to $65,000 per mile. A total reconstruct of a road, if it's failed on us and we have to come back and reconstruct it, you're looking more at $850,000 to $1 million per mile. So we really like to catch it in the pavement preservation side of the world, just because that increase in dollar, it's very impactful. So also to give you a little more perspective on the challenges of the world, I think I mentioned in our last Santan Valley meeting that we have approximately 2,200. I was incorrect. Back in 2010, I'm going to show my age here, that's when we had 2,200. I know I'm slipping here. And then in 2010, it dropped down to about 2,100 miles of roadway network. Now we're at approximately 2,000 miles within our roadway network. And out of that 2,000, we have about 1,500 paved roads and about 500 unpaved roads. Like I said, back in 2000, it was just flipped almost. We had 700, 750 of paved roads and about 1,500 of unpaved roads. So that whole dynamic is changing from rural to urban. And if you can imagine, it's costing us a lot more per mile to maintain a paved road versus a dirt road. So a little more on our changing dynamics here. Well, let me give you an idea of what we have. We have our pavement condition index. So currently, our roads are considered a 62. That's a grade. We drove every single road, and we give every road a grade. Right now, we're averaging a 62 to 63. That equates to about a C minus or a D. That's not good. That's not where we want to be. And then also in running those reports to tell us what roads need what care, it's telling us we need about $13 million per year just to keep up that C minus or D. That's the challenge. That's the difficult stuff. So just to give you that perspective. So with that, we're trying to be a little more creative in how those challenges are handled, and looking at different scopes of work that might be able to help us with that dollar, stretching out that dollar. Right now, we're looking into what we call a sustainable, recycled, reclaimed type of road. It's a full depth reclamation. So basically, our new roads, when we build a new road, or take an existing road and we're going to build a new road on it, we basically take everything out, gut it, haul it off, then we bring in new materials, and then we put that in play. We're looking and researching right now to hopefully get a sustainable product where we can reclaim it on site, add some additives to it, pump it back into a paver, and then lay it back down so there's no taking material in and out. That saves us major dollars. We're still in the research stage of it. I'm hoping we can get to a point where we make this hard initial investment for the equipment, but in the long run, we should be able to start doing roads for. Right now, our initial estimates are coming about 150 to 160,000 per mile in the reclamation versus 850 to $1 million per mile. So that tells you what kind of a difference we're trying to do. Haven't got it to the finish line yet, but we hope to here in the next year or so we can start doing some of those things. I'll hopefully start doing some of those things here locally. One of those candidates may be Lago del Oro, one in your backyard. I can guarantee you guys know the condition of it is not the best. If you can see on our map, I do have these maps, hard copies, so afterwards, if you'd like to dive into detail, no problem. I'll get you a copy and we can talk specifics. But Lago del Oro is a road that we have currently on our radar. It's going to be a two-phase type of thing. Initially, we'd like to get out there and do a quick profile and do some type of pavement pres just to buy us a year or two. So whenever our actual long-term funding comes available, we'd like to do more of a recycle, sustainable type product, or the other casualty would probably have to be rip it out and start all over again. It's getting to that point. But it is on our radar. We will take care of it here this summer at first phase, hopefully next phase within the next year to take the long term. I think you guys already probably noticed Pinal County did their side, so they're making us look bad, so we got to step up our game. So a couple other projects that we have out there. If you notice, District 4 is a pretty big district. It goes all the way up to Santan Valley, comes all the way down here, goes up to Mammoth, Salmon Well, through Park Link. Park Link's on our radar. We hopefully should be getting something started here the next year or two on the I-10 side of the world and coming back 2 or 3 miles. Another project in the Oracle area, Mount Lemmon Highway. We have another segment from the switchbacks. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that area. If you ever drive it, there's some really bad, unsafe switchbacks there that we have to get corrected. That's on the radar to happen right now. It's going to be going from the zip line to 3C Ranches, if you're familiar with that area. Very, very unsafe. Hopefully we can get that done here shortly. I think they have the plans drawn. They plan on actually construction probably this summer. I know this is tough here. Like I said, tough to read probably from where you're at, but I do have hard copies. And be glad to sit down with you and walk these over. But these are the pavement preservation miles that we've done. It shows a historical map from 1920 to now, fiscal year 1920 to 23-24. So it shows you the wide range of products and wide range of areas that we are taking care of. I believe it shows some pavement preservation that we've done on Catalina Hills, Eagle Crest Boulevard, has Lago del Oro on here coming up for this summer. So it just gives you a perspective on some of the areas that we've been taking care of throughout all of District 4. So with that, like I said, I'll be glad to sit down with you, walk over this map, walk over our construction projects. If you have any questions on those specifically on these maps, or if you have others, be free to come up and talk. We can have those conversations. So with that, I'll turn it over to our assessor, Mr. Wolf.
Good morning. Thank you. Hey, SaddleBrooke, how are you? How are you this morning? Everybody awake for this great presentation? Yeah. Kudos to you, because every democracy dies in apathy and ignorance. And you're here today to keep our democracy vibrant and going, and I do appreciate it. And all the folks here do appreciate you coming to hear what we have to say and give us a chance to present our ideas. I want to thank Jeff for putting on the State of the County today. You know, when I got elected in 2012, the goal of the county board, there were 5 members at that point, we had grown from 3 to 5, was to grow the business base of Pinal County very aggressively. And we have succeeded to a large part in doing that. And then the main reason was because our tax base was agriculture and residential homes. And we wanted to say, we need more business like Maricopa County or Pima County. And so as you can hear, we've been very effective with that. And we're kind of the center of the universe a little bit in electric car vehicles and a lot of the new technologies. Who would have thought that Pinal County would do that? But by being out there and presenting, people are paying attention to us. And all you need is 1 or 2 big wins, and we got those. And now everybody looks at Pinal County as a possible site for some of the things that are coming down the line technology-wise. So that's very exciting. So the assessor's office, basically we just locate, classify, and value properties. That's what we do. And on March 1st or thereabouts, you'll get a note in the mail from my office saying what your new valuation is for 24, John? Yeah, 2024. And it's a little postcard. And what you should pay attention to, there's 2 numbers on there, is the limited property value. That's your taxable value for your property. And you have 60 days from the time you get that, if you think it's wrong, to come to our office and to appeal that. And it's free to appeal. You just send us a note and we'll do it. Because, you know, we do mass valuations. We don't visit every house every year. So we do make mistakes. And so we want to be made aware of that, and we're glad to look at everything that you might send us. So look for that in the mail. And one thing that's really important, because we're all living in a highly inflationary period right now, is the growth in the property values. And you're probably thinking, oh my goodness, my house has gone up, $40,000, $50,000, $70,000 here in SaddleBrooke. My property taxes are going to go up. Well, in Arizona, we have I think it was 117. John, is that got the right proposition? We passed that says your limited property value, that is the number that we use to actually set our tax base, can only go up 5% a year. Okay? So if your house last year, for tax purposes, was valued at, let's say, $300,000, 5% of that is only $15,000. So regardless of what has happened around you as far as what the market value is, the basis for your taxes for the limited property value can only go up 5%. So you're protected from when the Federal Reserve decides to flood the market with $6 trillion and ruin the dollar. Okay, I'll get off my riff there. But anyway, it's not a good idea to have inflation for anybody except people who own debt, which the United States has a little bit of. In any case, let's see, I was going to talk about 22%, I think, Leo, or maybe a little more, of your county tax bill that you get from the Treasurer's Office is county-related. Most of the rest of it is our schools, water district, the Golder Ranch Fire District, all these other taxing authorities that have the ability to put something on your tax bill. So when you look at it, you should look at what portion is Pinal County, and you can see that we've done a good job of lowering our costs to our citizens, and I'm glad to be a part of that. The other thing we do in our office is we do cartography. You just heard we were talking about subdivisions, and we processed, is it up there? Oh yeah, 99 subdivisions. It's the highest in the history of Pinal County in the last calendar year. I think the reason that happened is because with the rates going up, a lot of developers decided, look, we got to get our plat maps done now, get them ready to go to put in the improvements and whatever, and they may land bank it for a while. This happened after the 2008 debacle, you remember, with the real estate meltdown. A lot of the land was plotted and ready to go, but didn't get built on right away. So I think they're thinking, if there is a slowdown in housing, and I don't think there's going to be much of one, in my personal opinion, as far as Pinal County, but they're going to have everything in the pipeline for themselves so that they're ready to flip it and put it on the market and sell the homes. So the other thing I was going to talk about is that, we nearly doubled our population in the last 10 years. So we're growing pretty dramatically. The one thing that's been a disappointment for me as the assessor is the Superior Mine, which we thought we had done under the prior administration, and it was going to get ready to be generating tax dollars. I think there were some estimates that it would double our tax base. Maybe that's optimistic, I don't know. But that would have been a great benefit to all the homeowners because we could have shifted some of the burden to the mine. Even though it's centrally valued property, we get a piece of that from the state of Arizona. In any case, when the new administration took over in Washington, they decided, well, we need more, I think, environmental review. Is that what? Yeah. So basically, it's been put on the shelf because it's basically a political decision. It's just the only way to put it. They just decided that it's, we're not going to build it, at least not for the next 2-3 years. So that's unfortunate that it happened because it would be, copper is the number one thing that's going into all these batteries, all this future technology that we want to have for a clean future, right? And if you don't have copper, you can't build all this stuff. And Arizona's one of the 5 C's is copper, and we should be, supplying it. Now, we do have a lot of other mines in operation, and they're doing well in Arizona, but this Superior Mine would be really spectacular. So, as a concerned citizen, if you want to add your voice, let Juan Ciscomani or Senator Kelly or Sinema say, hey, we should get this mine going. That would be a good thing. Okay, so I think that's pretty much what I want to say. Did I have another slide? I think I did. So just click. Yay. Okay, so right now, because of the dynamics of the marketplace, we're understaffed by about 25% of what we're authorized to have. So that slows down the processing of a lot of things. That's just my office. I'm not sure about everyone else's overall in the county. That might be right for the county. I'm not sure. And we just released our new website. Anybody taking a look at our new website, gone on there and said, gee, this is great, right? Oh, nobody's looked. Okay. Well, take a look at it. Look up your own property, please. That's the one takeaway I'd like you to have is look up your own property, make sure we have everything right on there, and if it's easy to find and easy to look up, because that's one thing we made some adjustments on. And one thing we're hoping to do is add an online chat function, because we get a lot of phone calls when our valuations go out in March, and people get put on hold and there's a long line, even with our call center. So we're hoping to have where you'd have the online chat and you could ask a message with a computer operator just over your PC from sitting at the comfort of your home. So that's some of our goals, and we're in an exciting time in Pinal County. I'm proud to be part of it, and we have a great team of people who work really hard every day trying to make things best for Pinal County. And now I'm turning it over to who's our next speaker? Jerry Roll, our new elections director. So Jerry, take it away. Oh. One more thing. I forgot to add, John Ellenwood is my chief deputy. He's here today. John, would you raise your hand? Thank you. If you have any questions that really are in-depth, that require something that you can ask John, he'll be glad to take care of you after our meeting. So thank you, and here you are, Jerry.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm the new director of elections in Pinal County. I'm very grateful to be here. I'm sure that you guys are aware of, which is the clicker? Thank you. Okay, so we don't think it really was 2022 highlights. There were some lights in 2022. We have a lot of room for growth in the elections department, and that is what we are going to to try to achieve over the course of this next year. 2022 was a sea change year for the Elections Department. In just a little over a year's time, they saw the loss of 2 directors and all employees save for one. One employee was left in elections who had any elections experience. And that's what we brought into the election cycle in 2022. And so we did have our difficulties. We are going to concentrate on training all of our employees, on making sure that we have safe and sound policies and procedures and timelines so that we know how to have a fair and accurate election. We are, I don't know why I'm so nervous. I'm so sorry. They don't look scary, but I apologize. I don't know why I'm so nervous. So we are going to strengthen the election process. We believe we can do this by delivering accurate ballots in the quantity necessary to ensure everyone wanting to cast a ballot can. We are going to deliver ballots that have the right races on them for the right jurisdictions. We are going to assure you accurate tabulation and processing and reporting. Yay. Most importantly, though, I want the Elections Department to be transparent. I want to invite everybody in the electorate to access the Elections Department and its staff for your questions and your concerns. I want you to come inside the process so that you can understand what we are striving to do and so that we can look to you for help in how to accomplish our job. We have to start from the director to staff to poll workers, inspectors, marshals. Everybody involved in the process has to have thorough training. They have to understand what it is that they are doing, and they have to be given the tools to be successful. To assure that we meet our goals, one of the things that we need to do is make a blueprint for the day-to-day processing, elections processing. We're going to do that in 2 ways. We're going to have a procedure manual that will detail precisely each step that you take in the election process. We're going to translate that into an elections calendar so that on a day-to-day basis, you know what you have to accomplish today to reach your goal at the end, which is to have an accurate election. We also, one of the things that I'm grateful for, one of the things that the attention brought to the Elections Department did was that it highlighted its disability that the Elections Department has been operating with for a fair amount of time, and that's its physical structure. The structure is too small, the space is poorly laid out, is not conducive to having an accurate election. So we are thrilled that the county is building a new building for the Elections Department. It's on the old site of the Florence Hospital on Central in Florence. It's going to be quite large. It will house the recorder early voting processes as well as the Elections Department. We're thrilled. We think that's going to enable us to do a better job than the job we've done. We have already started working on building our procedures manual and our day-to-day calendar. I believe that I have a staff that is dedicated and interested and engaged in elections. And I think that we will bring good elections to Pinal County. And I don't have anything else. Thank you. Oh, and this is Mr. Volkmer, our county attorney.
Good morning, everybody. Ken Volkmer, I'm your Pinal County attorney. I think most of the people in the room, like me, are actually a transplant, not a native Arizonan. I know I've spoke with a lot of you. I see a lot of familiar faces, but just to quickly reiterate, county attorney is a little bit different than probably where you came from. There's only 5 states that have county attorneys. We have the whole role of the DA, the district attorney, the prosecuting attorney on one hand. We also are the civil attorneys for essentially all the people you see sitting here. So my house is really divided, if you will. I have a civil division and I have a criminal division. We're about 150 employees with 50 attorneys that are diligently representing you, the interest, all the stuff that's going on, the economic development plans, all of those things. Primarily, I'm going to talk with you today about the criminal side because It's kind of the sexiest part. It's the part most people are really interested in. Nobody really cares about contract review. Right. That's the reality. So I want to start with the fact that, and this is something that doesn't get discussed enough, we are by far the safest large county in the state of Arizona. And what I mean by that, well, absolutely. Now, I know there's a few of you in here that actually have a Tucson address, but thank God you don't actually live in Pima County and don't truly live in Tucson. If you are a Pima County resident, you're 4 times more likely to be victimized of a serious crime than somebody that lives in Pinal County. If you live in Maricopa County, you're 3 times as likely to be victimized. Anywhere in the U.S., you're about 3 times as likely to be victimized of a serious crime than somebody that lives here in Pinal County. That's something we're proud of, our law enforcement is proud of, everybody at this table is very proud of. One of the things that our office has really worked with, and our entire law enforcement community, is correcting a historic, I'm going to call it a wrong. In the criminal justice system, essentially it used to be if you committed an offense, boy, you're worthless. We're going to throw you away, we're going to incarcerate you, we're going to lock you up, and we're going to brand you and make sure that you are ostracized from our community. The problem is that doesn't work very well. I want all of you to think very shortly of the dumbest decision you've ever made in your life. Maybe when you were a 20-year-old, you took a hit on a joint, or maybe you maybe did a line of something you shouldn't have done at a party. Maybe you went to a party, you had a little too much to drink, but you were the most sober friend, so you drove everybody home. Think about some of the decisions you've made, and imagine that you were unfortunate enough that a uniformed cop was sitting right there and they saw you make that decision. I would submit to you guys that if you're not a danger to our community, throwing you in prison and limiting your ability to get a job makes absolutely no sense. It does nothing to promote public safety. It does nothing to promote you being able to sponsor your family. So our office and our criminal justice community as a whole has really tried to make a determination in criminal cases. Is this a dangerous person, or is this somebody that made a dumb decision? And depending on where you fall in that category, we really start pushing to try and administer true justice. And that's my next point. So we had 700 people enter our diversion program. Again, I want you to think when you were young, maybe, just maybe you, maybe your children, maybe your brother that got in some trouble occasionally. You probably did something silly in your community, and there might have been a cop there that saw it. But you know what they used to do 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago? They'd either call your parents or they'd take you home, tell you to sober up and think about it in the morning. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. If law enforcement catches you doing anything because of operation of law, because of requirements, they charge everything. And that is not a criticism of our law enforcement community. Their hands are bound. They have no choice but to do that. But it becomes our responsibility to start looking at those cases and saying, really? Really, is this what we want to do? Do I want to, a 15-year-old kid goes out in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere, and starts shooting a pumpkin up with a .22? Do I really want to make this kid and charge him as an adult, register him as a felon so they can't get a job the rest of their life? They're going to have a hard time getting into college? Or can we do something a little bit smarter? Give them some consequences, make them right what they did wrong, but then give them a clear conscience and a clear record going forward. And that's really what diversion's about. We had over 700 people in our community where we identified, look, these aren't dangerous people. They did something stupid. They got caught doing a bad thing. They were in a bad spot, but they don't pose any danger to our community. So what we do is we give them consequences. They complete those consequences, and if they successfully complete the consequences and stay out of trouble, their charges get dismissed. We had 500 people in our county that don't have a criminal record specifically because they went through our program. I've got a couple more points. I promise I won't belabor it quite as much as that one, but I think it's important people understand what's going on. So DEMA is the Department of Emergency and Military Affairs, I believe. It's a state government agency. One of the unique things about our county is about a third of all felonies that are committed in our community are committed by people that do not live in our community. Meaning they come into our community, they victimize our residents, they sell drugs, they do whatever they do, and then we, as taxpayers, have to pay for it because we have to prosecute them, we have to pay for the public defenders, we incarcerate them. It's you as the taxpayers that burden all of that money. So one of the things we've been talking about with the Department of Emergency and Military Affairs is that's not fair. It's not fair that our people are paying for somebody else's mistakes, somebody else's choices. So what they did is they actually gave us a grant and said, hey, if you can prove, and they made us prove, but they said if you can prove that these drugs, or these offenses, are tied to essentially our border not being as secure as I think everybody would like, we will give you a grant. So we were able to comb through our actual cases. We were able to tie most of the drug cases and those that were non-U.S. residents that were arrested in our borders or within our county. We were able to actually get about a $140,000 grant. So we have a full-time prosecutor that is just being paid for by this DEMA grant to try and call back some of that money from the people, from you as taxpayers. This is a really public or positive thing. So my PIO is up there. Mike, wave your hand so everybody can see you. So Mike is my PIO. PIO is a public information officer. We have a program that I'm really proud of. It's called a Citizens Academy, and it's really what the criminal justice system is about. We peel back the layers. It's not what you hear on TV. I don't care if you watch CNN or Fox News. It doesn't matter. They're all giving you a shade that's maybe not quite exactly accurate. What we do is we let you in on what we do. This is the cases that come in. This is the information we have. These are the decisions we have to make, and we walk you through that process. We allow you to do a jail tour if you want. We essentially facilitate you making charging decisions. If you want to use a MILO, which is a judgment shoot that law enforcement officers are required, shoot or no shoot simulator. All of that is a process. It takes about 6 or 7 hours on a Saturday. We feed you lunch. We normally get 35 to 40 people to appear. I would encourage anybody that really wants to see how the criminal justice system works, how cases progress through the system, how cases are negotiated, I would encourage you to talk with Mike. I think we're doing a new session, I believe, in March. It has not been officially announced. I think it's going to get announced tomorrow, so you're the first ones to know about it. But if anybody's interested, please let Mike, and we'll certainly be happy to hold a seat for you. We also do the CSI event for kids. One of the things that we're struggling is to attract young men and women into the law enforcement field. You watch CSI and that looks really cool, and you watch FBI and all these various shows and they look really great, but the reality is the daily work isn't exactly what you're seeing on CBS or NBC or anything else. And we are not getting the caliber, the quality, and the numbers of people that we want joining the law enforcement profession. So what we do is we take 3 days in the summer where we actually do a mock crime scene. The children it's all children, so it's high school students. They come in, they actually process the crime scene, and then we actually go through an entire trial. Now, obviously, it's truncated because we do 3 full days, but it gives them a taste of what's actually going on. It's a really neat event. We did it last year for the first time. We had about 50 participants. We've already had to cut it off because there's so much desire to actually come and experience what this is really like. So again, it's something that we're really proud of. I told you I wouldn't talk too much about civil, but we do uncontested adoption. So our office actually completed 36 or finalized 36 adoptions. So we helped kids and families get their permanent home. It's something we're very proud of, something we don't push too heavily, but we do those services completely free. If it's easy and you just need an attorney, our civil division can do that. All right, so the lows. Crimes increased by 22%. Now, I started with the safest large county in the state of Arizona, and that is still the case. But crime in our community between calendar year 2021 and calendar year 2022 has increased 22%. The vast, vast majority of that. Drugs and felony DUI. So despite legalizing marijuana, felony drug charges are up about 25%, but they make up 40% of all felonies. So think about that. 2 out of every 5 felonies are the possession of drugs, transportation of drugs, or sale of drugs in our community. In the vast majority of our drugs, about 60% are methamphetamine and about 33% are fentanyl. So you're talking 93% of our drugs are fentanyl and methamphetamine. That is what we're seeing. Now, if you look at it, the bigger picture, 85% of all crime in our community relates back to substance use and abuse. So you have the 40% where it's actually possession, but if you calculate felony DUI, which is almost 10%, if you include all of the burglaries that are occurring so they can feed their habit, if you include all of the aggravated assaults that occur when somebody's under the influence, that they wouldn't have done this but for being under the influence, about 85% of all of our crime can be specifically tied back to substance use and abuse. I want to talk just a little bit about felony DUI. Felony DUI, quite frankly, is pretty tough to get. You have to already have your license suspended and get another DUI. You have to drive so recklessly that you almost killed somebody, or you have to have a kid in the car. And we had 240 felony DUIs that we charged last year. That's 240 that we caught. How many can you guess are actually out there? And every time somebody gets behind the wheel in that, they put your life and your life and your life and my wife and my children's life in danger. It's something that we really have to address, which is why the next slide. There we go. Thank you. So one of the things we're focusing on is public awareness and DUI for 2023. So anybody watch Fridays with Frank? So you either love Frank or you hate him. I kind of like him. He's kind of a smart butt, but he's kind of funny. We're hoping to work with Frank and others to really get out the information regarding DUIs. Because most people, and myself included until I've really looked detailed at the numbers, you always assume DUI is just somebody had too much to drink and they drove. At this point, DUI is less common alcohol, it's more common drugs. And what most people don't appreciate is a lot of the drug DUIs are actually prescription pill DUIs. So what ends up happening, and this is the thing that most people don't appreciate, you know what, maybe you have a hard time sleeping at night, so you take an Ambien. You know what, if you take an Ambien and you drive, you're under the influence. Maybe you've got severe back pain and you take a prescription opioid. If you drive under the influence of that opioid, your reaction skills are impaired. And what ends up happening is you are putting yourself and other people in danger. And then there becomes some driving irregularities. Law enforcement pulls you over. You do what are called FSTs, or field sobriety tests. It turns out that you're under the influence and people end up getting charged. So one of the things that we really want to do is partner with Frank and some of the other law enforcement agencies to be out at public events and have people go through field sobriety tests just to see. Maybe you don't have no idea. You're on prescription drugs. You've been on them forever, and you wonder, boy, am I impaired? Should I be driving? What we want to do is, again, we're not trying to bust anybody. We're not trying to arrest somebody. We're not going to follow you out in the parking lot and then get you. But it's really just a public information awareness to allow people to go undergo those testing to see, boy, maybe I shouldn't be driving. I'm almost done. Sorry. I'm an attorney and a politician. I'm full of hot air. I can't help it. Expanding our reentry and diversion for non-dangerous community members. I talked about diversion. We want to continue to expand the number of people in diversion. Pinal County is also very unique in that we've done a lot of work in this sort of common sense, dangerous versus dumb decision making. So much so that the state of Arizona has given us almost $7 million to focus on reentry. Because what we do is we're doing a good job of saying, hey, this is a dangerous person. We're putting you in prison. This is a person that made a bad decision, and we need to reintegrate you into our community. But there isn't always a lot of services, and it's not always an easy path. So what they gave us is about $7 million, and I believe Mary Ellen Shepard, who's going to be our next speaker, one of our deputy county managers, is going to discuss this even further. But specifically, what we're really trying to do is to try and create a plan where we can reintegrate these people into our community. If we don't, they're just going to continue to reoffend and continue to re-victimize us. Instead, we think it makes more sense to have a plan and try to actually get people with stable housing, have a job, have a productive member of society, somebody that cares for their children, somebody that you're not afraid of when you go to the grocery store or the gas station or anything else. And that's really what we're going to be focusing on, again, in 2023, 2024, 2025. It's a collaborative process. The sheriff's office, county management, probation, everybody's working collectively to really create a cohesive plan to make us all safer. And then finally, we're going to continue focusing on holding dangerous people accountable. I will tell you, and I wish this wasn't the case, but evil exists. There are dangerous people that we have to put in prison. If we don't, everybody in this room is in danger. We need to continue to make good decisions determining who's dangerous and locking them away as long as we can, and determining those people that aren't and reintegrating them into our society sooner. That's what we're tasked with. That's my responsibility as sort of the head DA in this role, if you will. And with that, I appreciate it. We'll be here later if anybody has questions. I'm kind of a detailed numbers, data geek, so I love the information, and if you want, I'm more than happy to share anything with anybody here. And with that, I appreciate your time, and please welcome Mary Ellen Shepard.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Mary Ellen Shepard, Deputy County Manager, and I believe I have the most important job in the county. Now, you heard, they told you about bringing in economic development, about, paving our roads and building new roads. You heard about building new communities, and of course, our county attorney about safe streets and safe communities. And all of these are critical to each of you. Why do I think my job is more important than that? It's because my job is to make sure they have the resources, the staff, and the support they need to do what they do for you. And I got to tell you, the challenge is I have been failing at my job. Today, we are experiencing the most unprecedented times when it comes to staffing critical jobs to provide the services you deserve. We have never before had so many vacancies and so few qualified applicants. And it's not just here in Pinal County. This is impacting on government and public sector all across the country. Private sector has somewhat recovered since the pandemic, but those of us in public service, unfortunately, continue to be challenged. The workforce, workers are scarce, and the cost we need to pay to bring in talented people is increasing daily. It is a difficulty we face. Some of the other challenges we're facing is we know that our county logo, it has got to be our county brand. It's got to be more than just a symbol. It has got to be more than just words on a paper. Enriching lives beyond expectations. It must be a promise. It must include and be appeal to passion, and it must serve a purpose. If we're going to bring in people to do the work, it has to hit on all those elements: a promise, appeal to a passion, and serve a purpose. We also know one of the biggest challenges we face in bringing in the resources to do the critical work is the employee experience matters. It matters from the get-go. It matters in the way we communicate our jobs and our ads and our social media. It matters the first contact they have with us. No longer are people willing to wait or be patient. They want a job. And if they want it with you, they want it today. They want to be wooed and brought into something that they're proud to be a part of. Retention, the great resignation, the great reshuffle that we experienced during the pandemic, it has not changed. Our employees are constantly looking for what's across the road. Is the grass greener someplace else? And every employer is competing for our scarce resources. When James talks about economic development and the number of jobs coming in, oh my gosh, my heart sinks. I love the growth and what it means for Pinal County, but we are one of those employers in competition for that same workforce. So what do we do about it? What are we thinking? What are we experiencing as an employer to make it better? We know that we have to have more flexible work sites. We have to create schedules that allow people to come in, give their best while at work, but also be there and committed to their families and their communities, because it's non-negotiable to pick and choose anymore. We want it all because all is needed. We are rethinking qualifications and skills for jobs. They cannot be rigid anymore. We've got to be open to people bringing different life experiences in and allowing the learning to take place in the workplace. And I also appreciated what County Attorney Volkmer talked about. We're starting early. We have to. We have to introduce younger and younger individuals to what it means to be a part of county government. And we know, too, soft skills are hard to come by. With the separation in the remote work, finding individuals who are good at communication, good at engaging, resilient, able to manage change and what's happening in our community, that's not a dime a dozen. Employee health and well-being is essential, and we're focused on it to make certain that we provide what is needed. We're doing business in new ways. We have been built on merit roles in the public sector. Those were created decades ago when laws weren't in place to protect employees. Now those have to be rethought so we can be more agile, we can be more responsive, and we can get quality people into the workforce. The big ask on this slide is what you can do to help. I would like you to please remember or to take to heart, we are your company. This isn't a Lucid or a P&G or some of the other incredible business coming in to our community. It's Pinal County, your company, your business. And may I be so audacious and say your responsibility. We need you to help message what it means to be a part of Pinal County, why working for your government, your community matters and can make a difference. You have contact with so many people. Please use your voice to not only hold us accountable, but to bring in the people we need, you deserve to serve your interests. I'm going to shift now. The focus is going to stay on people, but it's often the people we sometimes forget to pay attention to. County Attorney Volkmer talked about all of the incredible work his office is doing. He spoke about the Sheriff's Office and other partners. I'm going to speak very briefly on this work as well, because what is changing is the recognition that it is not a one-size-fits-all. The county attorney can be brilliant at his work. The sheriff's office can be extraordinary at removing people who need to be removed from our streets. Housing can be incredible by providing low-income housing. We can create jobs, but if we don't work together, we will not succeed in managing the challenging populations that we have to pay attention to in order to have the quality of life in the communities we want and deserve here in Pinal County. The fundamentals are around what's called the risk, needs, and responsivity principles. And I'm going to use this analogy. Imagine if you went into a hospital and you had broken your ankle. And what they did immediately was put you on chemotherapy. Think about it. That's what we have been doing in our justice system. You commit an offense, we put you into the system. Chemotherapy causes harm when it is given under the wrong conditions to the wrong person. We are changing. We are working together to make sure, based upon your risks to cause harm, we then focus on your needs to change that behavior. And then we respond in a way that's appropriate, consistent, and works together for the total good for all of us. We believe in long-term public safety. I'm going to wrap it up with this, if I may. when speaking to new hires that come into Pinal County, I ask them the question, can you tell me what a Sherpa is? Anybody? What's a Sherpa? A guide, a resource that helps individuals climb Mount Everest. And they'll respond the same way. We say, what do you do? And they'll say, I'm in community development, I'm in economic development, I'm in public works, I'm with the sheriff's office, I'm with the county attorney's office, finance, budget. We are a wide, expansive business. And I'll ask them to pause and explain. If you ask a Sherpa, though, what they do, they won't say, I'm a guide. They won't say, I'm a resource. What they'll say, I make the impossible possible. I make dreams come true. Here in Pinal County, your employees, when we're asked what we do, if we deserve the title of public servants, here is our answer. When asked, here's how we respond. We make life better. Thanks to you. Thank you.
Nice job. Well, did anybody get anything out of any of that? Oh yeah, good. I want to thank everybody for being here. This was great. Now we will have some, it says right there, you ask, we answer. So who has a question? And there's microphones down here in front, but I bet you can probably all scream pretty loud. So, and I'll try to repeat it. I'll start with Laniel.
I live on SaddleBrooke Boulevard in Unit 24. You're washing your hands across that road. I'm wondering if we could not get some crosswalks there.
Right, a crosswalk across SaddleBrooke Road at
Unit 24.
Unit 20. But what's the street? Wonder. So Wonder. Right. And so Mr. Ortiz is taking notes. I know I asked him once, and he said, "Oh, that's HOA, but really that's our road out there." And I know we can do. We can do. I know that we can do something about that. We'll have to do a study. I imagine there's a study that goes along with it, and it'll happen like sometime. Tomorrow, he says. Okay, I like it. I'm going to go right here to Ken, and then I'll come back across here.
Nobody spoke about water, talked about growth, talked about residences, and talked about businesses, and nobody addressed water.
Who wants to take water? Ah, Mr. Billingsley. There's a microphone right here. If we can get it apart.
Test, test. Is this working?
Yep.
All right, water. That's the multi-million-dollar question nowadays, isn't it? Water, as everybody understands, is a precious resource in Arizona. It always has been. It always will be. Arizona as a state really was ahead of its time in terms of water regulation in the 1970s and 1980s and set forth a platform by which the state could be successful in its development plans going forward. What we didn't anticipate is the 2 decades of drought that have ensued, especially at the headwaters of the Rocky Mountains and the Colorado River. I think everybody's familiar that here for 2 straight years, additional cutbacks have occurred with respect to that Colorado River water and its abilities to be delivered to central and southern Arizona, and obviously including Pinal County and Pima County. The good news from the municipal perspective, what we call M&I water, municipal and industrial, is those sectors, which includes housing and businesses, will be the last hit from cuts from the river. The bad news for Pinal County is the first people to be hit in terms of the cutbacks of Colorado River water are Pinal County, and it has to do with our agriculture community. And we all know what percentage of the economy and how important agriculture is to Pinal County. So those folks are definitely suffering at this time. In terms of Pinal County's involvement on the water equation, it's multifaceted. One of the Board of Supervisor members, Mr. Miller, is not only on the CAP board, but he's on about 4 other water boards in the state of Arizona. Our ex-governor's water commission was disbanded with the new governor. There's a new group that's coming into play, and we're working hard to get 2 members of the Board of Supervisors on that new water advisory group for the governor's office. We're also involved in several other studies within central Arizona with how to deal with the water issue and existing certificates of assured water supply that have been issued for future development. At this time, especially in central Pinal County, the only way that you can actually build homes is if that certificate exists for your development. Many of those have existed for 30 years and homes haven't been built. But it's going to continue to be difficult to acquire more certificates of assured water supply for enhanced development. We're seeing a push due to water concerns towards multifamily development. Not necessarily in this area, but certainly in the Santan Valley area and in Casa Grande. That has been a big push. So instead of single-family homes, we're seeing what are called build-to-rent communities, which one owner owns the entire subdivision, all the units, and they essentially work like apartments, but they're single-family homes. That is a very popular product at this time, and that's one of the ways that developers are trying to meet the demand of additional housing. We're very involved. Staff is working on water daily. One of the things that you'll see, I mentioned the zoning code update earlier, one of the things that you'll see as part of the zoning code update process is a water sustainability code that's going to come out in terms of use of turf, design of landscaping for future projects, reuse of water, and how to make all this work to be more sustainable from the water perspective. We're actually in better shape than the news would indicate, but that doesn't mean that we don't need to be due diligent and get everybody on the same page, which is something that Pinal County is working hard to do.
Okay, I'm going to come to this side of the room. Ma'am, right here. How many live within 10 minutes of our work site? All these folks work in Florence, so not many of them live in Florence.
Within 10 minutes.
Well, because they've got a home in Gold Canyon. I live here just in Eagle Crest. Where do you live in Maricopa? Casa Grande.
Size of the county, yeah.
The county is what are we? The size of Connecticut, is that what we always say? So
Yeah.
so yeah, so
It's a
we
large county.
come from all over. And sir in the red shirt there. Those are good questions.
Okay.
Did everyone get those questions? Okay. No. It's, do we have a voice in the I-10 corridor that goes across the Gila River Indian community where it's 2 lanes wide? And the other is to
Zip codes.
Zip codes for Mr. Wolf.
So we identified about 70 houses in the preserve, particularly, that for some reason was not getting the correct zip codes on our website, on our GIS layer, which we called. The assessor's office doesn't put addresses after we process a parcel to make it a new part of the county. We don't add the actual situs address. All we do is the parcel number, and then we hand it off to our friends here in community development and so forth, and they are the ones that work through the process with the Postal Service and the GIS. So it's fairly complex, And we just became aware that we've had these houses are in the wrong, or had the wrong zip code. Thanks to some of the feedback from here, I got people, my homies, and we are working on it. So I think we did address it. Brett just talked about a little bit. So I don't know if it's already resolved or they're pretty close. So
I was told as of last week it was resolved. Patrick is actually the addressing guy. He's right over there. So if you have specific address questions, he's here.
Daggers to Patrick, right there.
thanks for the question.
Joe.
Well, I'd say indirectly, yes, we do have a voice. Is it a strong voice? Probably not, because it's federal and ADOT push to make that happen. But yes, we are behind that project. We'd love to see it. We understand the complexity and yeah, there's always something happening there. There's always those accidents that really bog it down. That is the bottleneck. ADOT does realize it. It's just trying to get that to the finish line. You know.
Yeah,
Mayor Casa Grande is big on that too.
They allocated $400 million to that from the state. The federal grant, that was the other 50%, didn't go through, and so we are working on that. ADOT, I think we're trying to commit for them to go ahead and move forward with that money, knowing that at some point we'll hopefully win this federal grant and they'll make that match, because you're talking about almost $1 billion project on that widening.
We didn't get the federal grant because we didn't have enough bike lanes. You know, so that helps a lot. Yes, sir, in the black.
Yeah, I was wondering if gasoline taxes are not going to be building roads in the future, electric cars are going to take over. What is your plan for redistributing resources?
What is the plan for redistributing tax dollars from the highway use revenue fund, the gas tax?
Well, I think part of the RTAC that happened, I think that's one game plan. We have to have this half-cent excise tax renewed. That's the other side of it. I know we, from the legislative side, have really pushed, but it's a federal dollar, HERF is. So that's the challenge. But it's a challenge that not only Pinal County has, but you know, across the states, you know. So hopefully we can get some buy-in, because it's one of those issues, everybody knows it's a problem, but is anybody going to step up to get it corrected? That's the challenge.
We've got time for a couple of more questions. I will come back to, sir. Can diversion be non-discriminatory?
Check. Okay. It's first time it used. So what we do is we do keep an eye on it. We do track all of that information. We do report all of that information. Historically, county attorney's offices were blind. We were not allowed and consciously made the decision never to write even gender, let alone ethnicity, race, any of those type of things. But about 3 or 4 years ago, the state legislature said, Pinal County and Yavapai County, we think you guys do things pretty good. We want you to start tracking all of this data. So we had to actually rework our database system, and we do look at that information. I will tell you, I know you didn't ask my opinion, but this is the reality. The color of your skin means a heck of a lot less money in the criminal justice, or a lot less in the criminal justice system than how much green you have in your pocket. That's the biggest discrepancy that we see is it's not Hispanic versus Caucasian versus African American. It's lower socioeconomic versus higher socioeconomic. And what we've seen historically is the more money you have, the better results that you can get. And we have in our diversion plan actually baked in fixes for that. So if you are less than 200 times the federal poverty rate, you pay $20 as opposed to $75 a month, the full freight rate. So we do try and build in some of those things. As far as specifically, though, race and culture, we track it to make sure it's not being underserved, but we find that it's actually pretty consistent with the general criminal rate that's going in our community. So, because again, now that we track all of it, we're able to look at it, and we had a federal grant for about $1.2 million that just ran up where they looked at all of those things, and they actually declared us to be the model. So, again, I'm very proud of the program.
Right here in front. SaddleBrooke. I'm not aware of any for SaddleBrooke. I'm aware of the area of SaddleBrooke Ranch and how it will grow, but here I don't think that it's going to get any bigger.
Supervisor, you're absolutely correct. I'm not aware of anything looking to expand the SaddleBrooke that we sit in now. However, I can tell you we've had conversations with the folks from SaddleBrooke Ranch in terms of enhancing that project and making it larger. As a matter of fact, we're processing a zoning update for SaddleBrooke Ranch right now that's going to expand it.
Over.
Can I jump in real quick? I just want to make sure it's really important as legal counsel for the county. The county doesn't drive this. It's market factors that drive it. So we don't go to developers and say, hey, you really need to develop this and we're going to incentivize you to develop it. That's not the way we work. We can't drive that. We can't pick winners and losers. We're required to remain neutral. So there may be stuff going on in the background, but they come to us eventually. That's when they say we don't know. But it's not us. We don't plot out future annexation and really suggest or go to Ed Robeson and say, Ed, this is a really great opportunity to jump on board. So I just need to make sure that point is made clear.
Right over here.
The sheriff's not here. Drive faster.
You heard it from the county attorney. Drive faster. That'll fix the traffic problem.
Yes.
Well, how can we coordinate with other entities to coordinate traffic? Mr. Ortiz, that is all you, sir.
Yeah, that you're talking mainly state route here, correct? As it goes all the way down?
Going to Oracle.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's ADOT's. Those are ADOT's lights. But what we can do, we can reach out to their district and let them know they're supposed to be timed. But I'm not guaranteeing that they are. But I can make that request to them and let them know. Yeah. Right. They should be timed to sync up with each other. Right. Yeah. But I can pass it on.
Okay, right here, right there. I see the. Ooh, how often do we revalue properties, and have they gone down? Mr. Wolf.
Yes, thank you. The assessor's office does that every year. That's when you get you get the notice from us in March. Yes, we do, but we don't visit them all physically to do that. We use what is called a mass appraisal process, and that's why we have the appeal process if you think the number is too high. Generally speaking, if it's too high, we have the wrong square footage or something like that, or the wrong, maybe you don't have a pool or whatever. But going down, yes, there was a time where the values in 2007, 2008, we had, that was before I took office, we had that little downturn, hiccup, and we had thousands of appeals from people in Pinal County, and they actually did get their limited property value reduced at that time. Now, like I said, I wasn't there, but that's what I've been told by the old timers, who some of them are here.
Help with the diversion process, Mr. Volkmer.
So this isn't necessarily a plug, but Supervisor McClure's wife actually helps us, who's a local resident, and she helps us with space. Really what we do is try and give training. So if you want to stay afterwards, give us your information. We're always looking for people that can help provide various trainings and mentor and just do some other stuff. So we absolutely would love community involvement. It's an open book. Really, we just want to help people get better. We want to make them positive members of our community. And if we can get community members to come in, that would be excellent. So Mike and I will be around for a little bit afterwards if we can get your contact info.
We have time for one more question because they're going to boot us out. And I see, I saw her first, but okay, over here. Does a view matter?
The
to
answer is
citizen?
yes. It's considered part of your valuation of your property.
There we go.
Well, it's a factor. It's not probably the overriding factor, but you have some, like the preserves have, some higher views of the Catalinias and so forth. They get a little higher valuation because of their location. Sure.
Okay, there was
No,
one.
no questions about pickleball. I'm shocked.
Oh, shush, shush, shush. Okay, there was one question, right? Yes, ma'am. Gray water systems for new developments. Oh, Mr. Billingsley.
Actually, yes. I told you that there's a new sustainability portion that's going to come out with the zoning code estimate, or the zoning code update. One part of that is use of gray water and also the ability to have a cistern at your property to collect rainwater off the roof. I actually have them at my house. But when you talk about purple pipe and use of treated effluent, that's a conversation with your individual utilities. The county isn't able under statute to have a water utility or a wastewater utility unless the law changes. So that's a conversation with your individual utility who provides your water and your wastewater service.
That's all the time we have for questions. I want to thank all of you for coming. I want to thank all these great people for coming out today from Florence and to come speak with you. And they'll be around for a little while. So thank you.